Hello and congratulations. You made it to episode 22 of the Crushing Through Life podcast with your hosts, Rob and Jim. Look, let me be frank and beans here. If you're listening and you like what you're hearing, please consider subscribing to us on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, all of the jazz. It would really mean the world to us. And of course, helps us out tremendously. With your engagement, YouTube's algorithm will help us take over the world. I mean, get this podcast noticed by more listeners like yourself. Right now, we're sitting at about 41 subscribers, and we really hope to get to our next goal of 100, where we get to customize our URL. So please head over to YouTube if you can and subscribe to us with your account. That'd be amazing. Huge help for us. It is June 2nd, 2021. And as always, let's start off with today's quote. Do know that I am 60. Let me start off again. I do know that when I am 60, I should be attempting to achieve different personal goals than those which had priority at age 20. And that quote is from Warren Buffett, a ranch dressing and bird law expert.
Bird law. Good for him. Like, it's good to have. Maybe ranch dressing was his age 20 goal, and bird law is age. So what's cool about that is, I feel like you could insert any age that you are, and you could we turn 33, so I don't have to be 60 to wait until my next goal. So you can just make that work for any sort of milestone you want, or any if it's current, then go for it. That's what's kind of cool about that quote, I think. Yeah,
that's a good outlook at it. I was thinking about it like just in terms of wisdom as you grow, right? Like your priorities change when you make them at 20 and you're 6 years old, and you have so much wisdom with all the experience that you gain throughout all the years. Things that you look,
right. When you're 20, you want, fast cars and money and whatever, and I don't know, to be famous. Maybe still, maybe people still want that when they're 60. But I think when you're 60, if you're lucky enough to have a family, or that if that's something that you wanted, then you're like, how can I enjoy this more, or whatever? How can I get to that point where family is all that I'm, seeing, spending time with? So
absolutely. So, man, I just wanted to talk real quick about this little special that I watched yesterday, which was amazing. Bo Burnham's Inside, which is on Netflix. For those that you are familiar, since YouTube was started way back when, Bo Burnham's like the very first channel that I remember that was on YouTube. That had,
I've never heard of this guy.
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing. I remember watching him back in college when YouTube started, and just full of all of his videos were just like piano comedy, essentially, like piano amazing
comedy. Is that a genre?
Just like I think I just made it up. But no, it's like he's an amazing pianist, and his lyrics are just so witty and hilarious.
So is it kind of like a Tenacious D, Flight of the Conchords type, where it's sort of humor, but there's music, and it's barely music,
for sure,
but it's all humor generated?
Yeah. His earlier stuff for sure on YouTube, but this specific special was based on the pandemic, right? And being trapped inside and unable to go anywhere, and all of his music is associated with, I think, I would say it relates a lot to our age group, like people who are in their 30s, but not to put an age limit on the special. I think it's for everyone to watch. It's amazing.
So you would recommend, is what you're saying? I would recommend.
Yeah. It's a really good, interesting watch. It's kind of like an art type of comic, artsy type of, I don't know, comedic special, because there are some serious moments or some dark moments, but they're hilarious. It's mostly hilarious, and the lighting and the cinematography of it all, it was really well done. I was thoroughly entertained. I was watching it with my wife, and I was just laughing so hard. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, man, totally go see it. And whoever's listening, go watch Bo Burnham's Inside on Netflix.
Yeah, and let us know if you agree with Rob. So, Jessica and I don't really watch too many specials. We're kind of we either feel like a movie, or we feel like a TV show we've seen a billion times, or we are trying to, currently we're doing Man in the High Castle,
right?
For a TV show we haven't seen. we always have like 4 things on the go. So like we're watching that for a serious drama if we have time for an hour. We're rewatching Seinfeld. It's like a quick, not heavy type thing that we can eat during, if we take a lunch together or, quick episode before bed or something.
Nice.
Like just it kind of just like almost background noise. And on the side, Jess loves Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so she's watching that on Disney Plus. I kind of got into Scrubs again after a friend suggested it.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't as good. They said it held up, and I honestly thought I didn't love it as much as I remember liking it the first time. I've only seen it once, but I remember like it's just not. So I don't know if I'm going to waste my. There's a lot of seasons. Maybe I'll just finish season 1. The one doctor, Dr. Cox, he's amazing, but the rest is like.
Yeah, I remember that show as being funny growing up. I don't know, like I don't know if I could rewatch it right now.
It's one of those things that I think it did certain things that sort of paved the way for other shows. Like its humor, people have just picked it up and ran with it, and it's newer and it's maybe a little more production. So I think it's been done better since, that kind of thing, which it has it against it for like trying to go back and watch it. But so maybe we'll check this out though with your recommendation there.
Yeah, for sure.
I've seen a couple other people talk about it as well. So it's not like, it wasn't just out of the blue. But yeah, Bo Burnham, I saw it on Facebook. Somebody posted on Facebook. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Never heard of him. I did not get in on YouTube on the ground floor. It's
actually, you know what, man? I'll tell you right now, it's actually really good that you don't even know who he is and has never seen any of his stuff. So you're going in with fresh eyes. That's perfect. This will make it even better.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do a grading.
I don't want to like spoil it. It's really good. But essentially, it's just like about being inside, being kept in at home, right, throughout the pandemic.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Well, and it's nice to have a, if it's depending on the spin of it, it's nice to kind of, we're like in Canada and Ontario and other parts of the world aren't the same as us, but it feels like we're approaching the end, and it's only. Let's say, I mean, I don't want to give a number because then it's going to be 2 years longer than what I say. But, if it's somehow 2022 and Ontario's back to the new normal, I don't want to say normal because I hope that everyone's learned from this. Like, I don't want to go back to what we were. This is a whole other topic. But, if you haven't changed who you are, like, respecting, even shaking a hand with somebody when you meet them or giving your family members a hug or friends a hug, like, if you haven't learned anything or grown a little bit during this, and it's, what was the point? That's how I view it anyways, but it's happy, hopefully it's a happy take that we can look back and laugh on now with
it definitely is.
Things are closing near the end, so but yeah, I'll give a report next week.
Okay, perfect.
We'll do the quote, and then we'll do the Bo Burnham Insider on Netflix with Jim Harrison.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes here of what this episode is going to be about. I really wanted to focus on smoking.
That's a big. Okay.
What a segue.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so I was a smoker in my life, or in my past life. I don't know. Is that the right thing to say? Earlier in my life, in this life,
you were a smoker.
And I like earlier on, like I remember my first cigarette that I had was with a friend of mine, and it was like his family smoked, so I think that's how he got it. But it was like always that curiosity thing. We ended up like taking one during, I think it was grade 8. That's the earliest I remember. Yeah, that's the first time I had my first cigarette. Or tried it at least. Grade 8. Isn't that wild? To me, that sounds like so young, but I've heard like worse stories of earlier, like younger people than grade 8. How old were we in grade 8? Trying to remember, 12, 13?
Depends. Yeah. Like, so I think I would have been 13.
Yeah.
Or
so 13 years old, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think 13 because I think I've graduated high school when I was 18. So that would be that grade 9 I would have turned 14, grade 10 I would have turned 15, grade 11 15. Yeah.
So that's what I tried. Right. That's when I tried my first cigarette, and I remember like freaking out because after you try your first one, you're like, okay, you douse yourself in cologne, brush your teeth like mad. You probably smell like absolute garbage to your parents when you're just trying to hide it from them. Which is I look back at it now, it's hilarious. Because you're just an idiot when you're that age. You have no idea what's going on. But man, like it's just
that kind of stuff is so funny to me. Like thinking back, and you're always like, how did they know? Like, and then your buddy's like, well, you put on the Axe body spray, right? And you're like, yeah, like tons of it. It was, and I put on this, and I brushed my teeth, and all this stuff, and then your parents are like, did you have a cigarette? It's It's funny. I remember you telling a story. I don't know if you want me to tell it or not. Of you going to after prom and bringing a folding chair from your backyard.
Oh yeah. You can tell that
story. That's a safe one? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you can go ahead and tell that story.
Rob's trying to tell me the story about how he's sneaking in beer to the after prom. So who picked you up? Chris?
So our buddy Chris Lane.
Chris. Okay, yeah. So he picks you up. He picks up Rob.
Yeah.
And it actually, you could probably tell it better, but actually, yeah, go for it. You because you're gonna not.
Oh, I was just all right. Well, so I was trying to bring beer into our after prom. 2-4. I was hiding it in my parents' shed back then, and of course, it's an after prom. So you as a parent, your child is up to shenanigans that weekend.
Everyone that age is going to Wasaga for the weekend to drink underage with their friends.
Wasaga is like a beach area in Ontario. We're renting a cottage, and I ended up hiding my 2-4 in my parents' shed, and I say goodbye to my parents and all that. Leave the front door, and then just do like a full 180 to head around my house back in the backyard to grab a folding chair and try to hide my beer underneath the folding chair, essentially.
So that's what it reminds me of, where you're putting on all this cologne. So you're finally doing something different and trying to make it look like you're acting normal. It's funny, actually, the whole, in poker, when you're trying to tell if somebody's bluffing or not, a good way to explain it to a beginner is that every hand, someone's trying to tell you a story. So if they raised, they're trying to say, I have a good hand. And if they bet, they're trying to say, I have a good hand. And if they bet again, they're trying to say, I have a really good hand. And then the third time, they have an amazing hand. But if one of those steps doesn't make sense, then something's up. So in this particular case, it's why is Rob doused in cologne tonight randomly? What did he... So now I think I look back, it's there's probably so many times where we probably did that. I can't even think of examples. Maybe our parents could come up with better exampls. But you're there's a standard thing Rob does: go to get the lawn chair, folds it rather than keep it. Unfolds it so that you can sit on it to hide the beer. All right, something's up here. What is he up to?
Yeah, I popped it out, popped it open, flipped it upside down, and carried the 2-4 underneath the folding chair, probably wobbling all the way up.
So that's what hill. That's what I think of when. And everyone's parents at one point have probably said, there's nothing that you can get away with because I've done it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be, I feel like that's sort of what it means, where it's you can try, but I'll know when you're up to something at some point like that.
Right,
anyway, sorry to sort of derail. You can get back.
That's okay. So anyways, that's always the first cigarette I had.
Dousing
13,
cologne.
grade 8, dousing cologne. High school, most of our friends were smokers. I ended up being actually in a different crowd before the crowd that our friends that I knew of in our friends.
One of us.
And
I was not in the smoking crowd.
Yeah, I started smoking in that crowd. And then it was so funny, thinking back, how did I get cigarettes in high school? And it's not good, but it's also funny to think about. So there's a convenience store down the street from our high school.
Do not name it. It's probably out of business at this point. There's no way.
It's not there anymore. But basically, there's a bad actor who's the cashier at this establishment, and you essentially, mind you, this was a high school where we had to wear a uniform. You'd walk in.
I forgot about the uniforms.
Yeah, we were wearing. Obviously, we're in high school. We were not a legal age to buy cigarettes, and you'd walk in, and if there was no one in the store, then the coast was clear for the guy to sell you some cigarettes. And if there was someone inside the store, you'd have to like wait till that customer leaves, and then he's like, okay, thanks for waiting. So anyways, that to me is hilarious, because like you're just walking in with a friggin' high school uniform on, and just like, this guy gets caught. It's screwed.
Like you're wearing a sign that says, I am not legal to buy cigarettes and lottery tickets, is what everybody our age wanted.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, after high school, I'm skipping a lot of stories, but just for the sake of time, after high school, I've done some on and off quitting. I've quit for a longer periods, 3 months, 6 months, and all that. And I usually tend to get back on it. And I think the longest first bout that I had was about 6 months, until I think I had maybe like a stressful week, or I was really looking forward to a guy's cottage weekend. And then that weekend, like right away, my brain was just like, okay, I'm just going to buy a pack of cigarettes because I know I'm going to smoke this weekend.
Was that,
and once you I'll get back to you in a second. Once you start smoking during that cottage weekend, then you're finished your first pack in the first day, the first night. It's gone, because you're drinking and you're sitting around a campfire with your buddies and all that. So it's gone. So you're buying a second pack the next day. You're going into town, and you're still halfway through your cottage weekend. And after that, it's like you smoke 2 packs in a weekend, you're back on it for a longer period of time. What were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I guess what I was going to say is there was a year where I tried to pay you to stop smoking. I was just curious if that was that year, because you lasted a long time.
I do remember that. Yeah, that actually really, it worked for sure. I don't remember what did I make it the full year? I can't remember if I made it the full year.
So I've actually offered this to, I don't know, I want to say like 5 or 6 people. Like, you're one of them. Mm-hmm. It can only be people that I really trust. So basically what I used to do was I'd offer to pay somebody $1 a day that they quit smoking, but they have to start January 1st. And with our friends, because they drink, I would give them the day, like basically the evening of January 1st, because they're going to drink at New Year's, and then it's going to be tough to stop right at New Year's when they're already like, their discipline, let's call it, is already gone. So I would say, like, by the evening of the 1st, can't have any more cigarettes. For every day that you go, I give you $1. However, you only get the money if you last the full year.
Right.
And then I just changed it later on to just like, if you quit smoking for a full year, I'll give you $500 on New Year's Day the next year. Mm-hmm. And I think that, a couple of people lasted till March. Like, I think you lasted, like, that's what I thought, you lasted till like August, or maybe it was before, because you came to me. I went to see you one time and you were like, Jim, I have some bad news. Like, and you broke it to me that you had stopped. So one of my friends, actually, I think it was January 2020, he said he was going to stop smoking, and he actually did it. And he's the only person that's ever taken me up on that, and he just stopped cold turkey, and he has it. I mean, obviously, when you look at it, like $1 a day or $500 is nothing. But I mean, I don't know how much a pack of smokes cost, but if it's like $10, depending on how many you're smoking per day, like that's a ton of money that you save. Right. Not to mention that you're hopefully changing for your life for the better. So that was the whole end game, was like, it's like $500 in my life to have a friend like live forever. But
you're a good friend, Jim. I'll give you that. That's a really nice offer.
I mean, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Nobody ever did it, so like we don't know. Like, what if I just like pull the money out at the end? I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but I never offered it, or sorry, I never had to pay it out. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you were, again, I would only do it with people that I trust, to not be like smoking and just not telling me and trying to get away with, like, that defeats the purpose. It had to be honest. But I remember being like super proud of you, because you had smoked almost since I met you, I think. Right. And then, that was like 10 years.
Yeah. For that long. I mean, like, since high school, I did high school, I did college, I did a little bit after college. And then, you quit off and on, and you try to hide it from your family, which is always the thing that you try to do out of out of respect and the fear and avoidance of having that conversation. It's awkward because it's it was looked down upon. But yeah, my longest bout was after I want to say my first job I got out of college. Can't remember exactly when, to be honest, but I ended up quitting for a longer period of time. And that was, I would say, a year, maybe a year and a half. Went back on. Like I quit four or five times. And now it's like my longest time since that 1 year and a half, where I quit for a year and a half, went back on, and then quit again. That was my last time. And for those that know that, like I quit for about 3 years now, maybe 4.
Well done, man.
Thank you. What's funny is that after I got promoted in my job, that was the weekend where we spent with our friends. I actually smoked that weekend. I ended up having cigarettes because I was in such a reward mood, which is hilarious to me to think back. And I'll tell you right now, psychologically, I was happy that I did that because I was in such a state where like I was like euphoric that things were working out in my career, that I was rewarding myself. And then I remembered, it was a reminder, like, oh, like the Monday driving back home or whatever, or the Sunday driving back home or whatever. It's like, oh, wow, I feel horrible. I can't breathe. And this is why. And it was such a good reminder. I was actually really happy that I smoked that weekend, which is weird to say after not smoking for 3-4 years, whatever long it is.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, you were saying before that when you go to you quit and then you're going away with the friends, and especially at an outdoor cottage weekend, the only time you're inside is when people are going to bed, or, you're
right.
like making food. And even at then you're like making food on the grill, like most of the time, the barbecue. So, but if you're outside near the dock or by a fireplace, somebody has a cigarette on those weekends lit for the entire weekend. Like there's not one time where there's not a smoke being had. So it's really, really tough to quit and go to those environments, I think. So, I can kind of get it where you're, and actually we've talked about stress eating and reward eating in the time. And like, obviously, if that's a thing for you then, or for you now, like with eating, like for sure you would have done it with smoking back then. Right. So
that's funny. I didn't even think about that correlation.
Right. Like you said,
that's something to look at.
And you said reward eating before. So it's, it makes sense. Right. That's the way that, you'd worked hard for that thing and you're like, I'm going to let loose. And like you said, I mean, that's really cool that it didn't have a backslide type of like outcome on this where, you had it and you're like, oh, that's why I don't do this. Right. And I think now, maybe you've gotten to that point where like if you had one tonight, you'd probably feel the same way. You'd be like, I do not miss this at all.
Right. Oh yeah. No, if I had one right now, it wouldn't be good. That's for sure. There's times I thought about it. I joke about it all the time with Terry too. It's like, oh, I could use a smoke right now. It wouldn't really, like, we both know that that's not going to happen. Yeah. It could though. It could. I just know that right now I'm in a much better position and more mature than I was back in my 20s and college years and all that. But yeah, anyways, moving on. So, and I guess I should mention too that my role model at my job unfortunately passed away from a bout of cancer. You mentioned that right before. Yeah, and he was a very, very heavy cigar smoker. So I feel like it's important to mention that as well as a realization. I think we all know someone that has passed from smoking. I don't know if you know anyone that's
yeah. So it's funny that today you chose this as kind of the topic to bring up because it's actually the 4-year anniversary of my grandma passing away. And
oh really? Wow.
She I mean, I don't know when she would have started smoking, but as far as I was told, I picture her smoking probably from a similar age that you mentioned, I think.
Right.
Except for she had 8 kids. So I guess she had 9 months break 8 times. So, it wasn't all there. But, like I remember I was super young and she went to the hospital for something with her heart, and everyone was sitting around, and it's kind of funny how scary moments like that actually bring everyone together, and that kind of thing. But yeah, so it's kind of weird. I guess 4 years flies by at the same time. Like the last year felt like 4 years in itself. So, but it's really cool. I mean, today I was thinking about her and little things like she was the one that took care of my sister, myself when we were sick. She always make us Lipton soup. She actually ran the Video 99 in Aurora. So I've probably seen more movies than the average person hasn't, because she would bring stuff home and say like, you're watching this.
That's so cool.
Now I'm so picky. I'd be like, oh, well, can we just do this again? She's like, no, you got to watch this one for the first time. So I did, with movies, I've seen a lot and mostly with her influence. And actually, I wanted to make sure I was going to text my whole family and say like, cheers to grandma, something like that. So I looked in my phone and I see like my mom, my sister, my wife in a group chat. So I typed there and I'm like, hey, is today the anniversary of grandma's death? And it's like, if it is, cheers to her. If it's not, still cheers to her. But I love you 3 very much. And then I get a text back from my uncle and his wife, like separately. And they're like, we love you too, Jimmer. And I was like, ooh, well, the purpose of this text was to make sure I didn't embarrass myself at the wrong date before I messaged the whole family. Like, how many people are in this thing? Luckily, it was only them, but I didn't embarrass myself, and the date was correct. So, yeah,
that's good.
Super weird thing.
Right.
A lot of my family has smoked. I actually think a lot of my family, now that a lot of them have quit, some of them still do.
That's great. That's great.
But yeah, it's pretty serious thing. So, and it's just so tough to get out of that habit. I mean, it's not the only bad habit that people have.
For sure. My coworker actually mentioned to us yesterday that he is quitting smoking because of his daughter, which was really cool to hear. I remember him saying, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but his daughter, it was her birthday, and she's quitting like because of her. So that was really cool to hear, and like that little spark of motivation, and just hearing that from your kid is a really strong feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So kudos to him, and I hope he has a good journey. It's very difficult, but the other reason why I wanted to talk about the subject is that because I've gone through this, I wanted to share some tips, and whoever's thinking about quitting smoking or has had issues in the past trying to stop, here's what you should do. There's this guy named Alan Carr. His name's Allencarr. He was a British author of books about stopping smoking and other psychological dependencies, including alcohol addiction. Unfortunately, in July 2006, it was like revealed that he had been diagnosed with lung cancer. At the age of 71. Then the following month, later, it was revealed that it was terminal. His life expectancy was about like 9 months. But during that time, he said, since I smoked my final cigarette 23 years ago, right? So 71 to 23 years ago, I have been the happiest man in the world. I still feel that same way today, which is really cool for him to say at such a dire time. He passed away November 29th, 2006, at the age of 72 as a result of his lung cancer. But yeah, he's just, Alan Carr is pretty amazing. I was reading a little bit about him. He was a very powerful psychological author. He has several publications, not only to help people with nicotine addiction, but also alcohol, overeating, unhealthy eating, fear of flying, worry, anxiety, gambling, debt, and even like digital addiction. So I highly recommend people check out his book that he's got called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. It's rated one of the best books out there if you're ever thinking about quitting smoking. And it's on Amazon. You get an audiobook for it. It was actually made in 1985, believe it or not. That's when he published the book. And I'll put a link in the description for anyone who's interested in checking it out. But even if you search for Alan Carr on YouTube, there's tons of little clips that you can watch about his methods. I ended up, during my biggest bout, listening to his audiobook during my commute. And I think that was the best thing for me too, because at the time, 45 minutes, I can listen to a chapter a day and really plow through the book. And it's kind of funny because
I was going to ask if this is what you used, or you've kind of came across it later because, maybe somebody else mentioned it.
This is what I used my last time, right? Okay. Like not the first 3-4 times where I failed. Like this is like the last biggest change was for me because it really changed your mentality of smoking in general and nicotine addiction. One thing he talks about these smoking myths, and I actually have a list here. The first
myth. Sorry, like
myths.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first myth is that smokers need a willpower to quit. Other methods concentrate on reasons why not to smoke, such as the health, the money, the slavery to the cigarette, the filthy habit. But we all know this, and we continue to smoke. Why do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the tug of war, we can argue that it's relaxing. It helps me concentrate. It relieves stress, or it relieves boredom. Which those are pretty powerful reasons to make smokers frightened to quit. But just suppose smoking did none of those things, and it actually instead impeded concentration. It impeded relaxation. It increased boredom, right? It increased stress. Now you've kind of changed your thinking. You have 4 additional reasons to quit smoking. And, once that realization occurs, the desire to smoke kind of goes away and you won't have that willpower anymore. Number 2 is the myth of smokers choose to smoke. They believe they smoke because they choose to. They can usually remember their first experimental cigarette, which I just remembered earlier in this podcast. But they don't remember when they exactly became a regular smoker. No smoker really ever did, right? Typically, no one encourages someone to smoke. All smokers have that sense that they fell into a trap. They would never want to start, right? If you make a half-hearted decision to quit, you've already made a positive decision. You want to be a non-smoker, right? And if you still smoke, it's not because you choose to, it's because you failed to quit. So that's something that to keep that in mind. The other thing was that nicotine gum and patches work. That myth is when smokers quit, they believe they suffer from the withdrawal of nicotine. Nicotine withdrawal is what smokers suffer from the most.
Right.
It's the most addictive drug in the cigarette, and it's the only thing. It's the only reason why they continue. Substances such as that contain nicotine are actually prolonging that addiction. So you can't cure addiction from a drug that you're addicted to by taking that exact same drug. So that's it's nonsense. And the last myth was smokers believe that it's difficult to quit, providing you realize that there's nothing to give up. You can't quit, not with a feeling of doom or worrying you have the willpower, or worrying that you have the willpower, but with the pure enjoyment of freedom of elation, knowing that you can enjoy this social gatherings more, and better equipped to handle stress. You'll look at other smokers not with envy but with pity, in the realization they only are relighting that cigarette to try to get back into that feeling of relaxation that non-smokers enjoy all their lives. The one thing that prevents them from doing that is just another dose of nicotine.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. Like the way he describes and talks about these different methods is kind of like a psychological aspect where you want to change your thinking when you want to quit smoking. And it's pretty funny too. I should mention that when you're reading the book or listening to it, if you have an audiobook of it, he tells you to smoke during the entire book. Like he actually encourages you to smoke during that entire book. It's like, yeah, have it, whatever, and read the book. But at the end of the book, it's like, all right, this one's your last cigarette.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
and it's
I honestly,
at the end, sorry, I'll just add one thing. Like at the end of the book, when he says like, have your last cigarette, it's like, you kind of like think like, do I really want it? You know?
right.
So it's a little bit of a change of mentality.
It's cool how he kind of sets that up. Yeah. And what I was going to say is I honestly, I have just let you kind of go. I don't really have much to add to the topic, like not having to really worry about that, in my life. But I know, it's different for everybody. It's kind of a touchy subject as well. Because I feel like, it could come across sometimes where you're like trying to preach to somebody to stop smoking and they're just like, stay out of my life. I know better. And
I would never want to preach to someone to stop smoking, which is kind of funny as I just read all that off. But this is really good if you're trying to discover, if you're trying to, if you want to start smoking.
Right.
And
you've mentioned before, the point of the podcast is trying to help people in a way, similar way that with what's helped you in the past to better yourself. So, I don't think it came across as preachy. I just mean in general, these books sometimes when someone, like I can imagine it where a friend that quit smoking gives it to another friend and they're like, F you, man. I like, what is it? I got my own battles going on, like you never know. And what, what's fully going on with somebody and whatever their reasons are, maybe they just don't care. And like, and that's fine too. If that's what they obviously, like you said, they know it's not healthy. So, but yeah,
I remember it's funny. The bumming of the cigarette's always like the worst, especially when you don't have one and you're like, hey buddy, do you mind if I grab one off you? Because I've done it so many times and then they know, like, dude, you quit like 3-4 times, like you really want a cigarette, and then it's not their fault that they give it to me. Let's be honest.
Right.
But I'm just like, it's that mental game to get over. Especially if you have an addictive personality, it's tough to handle sometimes.
Yeah, I think that would be, it's definitely the danger. Like that's honestly why I was so proud of our early challenge in the year where I didn't drink for 31 days because my family does have addiction issues for sure. And it's not like the easiest thing to talk about, I guess. But anyways, I never really had an excuse to quit because why bother? But yeah, so we quit and then I had to do it again. So I've already done it twice this year. So it's just a good mental check mark. So proud of myself for doing that. But I did say, I think in one of the episodes that I didn't have to really put myself to the test where we weren't out at a bar and, I was being asked or, the world wasn't back yet. So like, it's a lot easier to quit at home in lockdown than it is to be going to softball and everyone is drinking, like I was told when you go to softball, bring 3 beers for the game. Like that's what everybody does. So like, I'm going to be the only one not drinking. And it's like, bring your glove and 3 beers. That's what I was told. So it's just, but anyways, it's whatever the addiction is, it's obviously tough to stop. And if you feel like quitting, I mean, clearly this worked for Rob. So, maybe try it out for yourself.
This guy helped me out because it wasn't just like a cold turkey thing. Well, it was essentially, but it changed my mindset greatly. So I do recommend him a lot.
At some point,
it may not help. Yeah.
Like you could define it by whenever you quit, but it's not the idea of what cold turkey means. I'm going to say I'm going to stop smoking tomorrow and then I just never have one again.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. It may not help. This guy might not help you exactly, but it's something that I would recommend that you at least try to discover if you are thinking about it. The other 3 things that I want to mention real quick, lastly, just on the topic, just 3 more tips that I would recommend to anyone who's trying to quit smoking. You want to track it, right? Everyone's got a smartphone these days. Go to your app store, download a tracking app. There's tons of free ones. You don't necessarily have to pay for one. There's tons of free ones out there already, and they're really, really good. They track your days, how much money you've saved. You have a calendar, you have achievement awards, you have like journal entries to help you move along. The other thing I would recommend is a sense of community. So I use Reddit. Reddit.com.
Surprise there.
Yeah. Reddit.com. They should be paying me. Reddit.com/r/stop smoking. It's awesome to have somebody to talk to that isn't in your group, right?
Yeah.
That, that doesn't have any bias towards you, and you can talk openly, freely, anonymously to the other people that are going through the same thing you're going through. And then the last thing would be like a personal check-in person. So someone like Jim would be another example. And sometimes this topic is kind of debated, but you could tell your family, you could tell all your friends. That would help you cheer you along. Sometimes when you do tell people that you are doing this thing, you have that mental aspect that like, oh, you've already told people that you're doing something, so you've already succeeded. So you'll end up not doing the thing anyway. So I would say at least have one person that you can check in with personally, have an anonymous community, have a tracking app, listen to Alan Carr's book, check him out on YouTube. Lots of good information there. And I think you'll be on your way. Try to stay away from nicotine patches, nicotine gum, nicotine vape. It's not going to help you. I'll be honest with you. You're continuing to put nicotine in your body, even if the program is to wean you off. It's not going to work. You need to change your mindset.
I mean, I bet you, like, again, I don't know enough about it, but I think I know people that have switched to the vapes and whatever, and for them, it's actually helped. It's helped them lower the amount of nicotine that they're taking. I've also heard the other way, where now they don't need to go outside and they can just vape all day long, and they're finding it's actually more. So, to each their own, and whatever battle someone's taking, like, you reach out.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. This is my own personal opinion. Yeah. I tried the vape thing. Yeah. Oh, I'm not a doctor. I tried the vape thing for a little bit, and I ended up putting more nicotine into my body than I did a cigarette, because it was constantly puffing that thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's funny. I mean, like, I guess when you mentioned earlier than I would have guessed, actually, for starting smoking, but I'm sure people start even later in life. But, when you look at how smoking is portrayed, so actually, random fact, but I once worked for Rothman. I worked for Rothman Benson and Hedges for a summer, marketing, and in the marketing department of cigarettes. Now, my actual job wasn't coming up with the ideas.
Best department to be in.
Oh yeah. So actually, you can't do anything. Like, you can't show smoking in any positive light. So, like, I don't even know how they do their job. Honestly, it's like, here's a blank wall, and then it's like at the end, it's like Rothman's. But yeah, they like. And there it was super weird, because people, so if you smoked, it was called product testing. And once an hour, you could go out and product test in designated smoking rooms in the building. But yeah, like I was saying, so with the advertisements, you can't show smoking in any, like, you can't have a person holding a cigarette. You can't have a cigarette. And I was going to say, in like, have you ever seen Tommy Shelby and Peaky Blinders? Or like there's certain characters that they show in pop culture. It's like, these people smoking, it's the coolest thing ever. In Goodfellas, Robert De Niro, it's like a very famous scene where he's just smoking a cigarette, and you're like, wow, Robert De Niro is the man. But it's just, if he wasn't smoking, I don't know if it'd have the same effect. Maybe it would, but so even from a young age, if you watch these things, you're like, smoking is cool.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely portrays a certain image, right? Like, Thomas Shelby, Peaky Blinders.
Like, he makes me want to have a cigarette. Right? He makes me want to have a cigarette, and I'm a non-smoker.
Makes it look really cool.
Yeah. So I actually, just to switch topics here, I wanted to happily announce that Jess and I are one dose in of we are on Team Visor.
Beautiful.
So yes, thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, we went and got that on Friday. It was the smoothest. So actually, it was both smooth and not smooth. So it was smooth in the sense of how you described. I'm not sure if you did it on another episode or just with our group of friends, but so we went to the old Hershey Center. I forget what it's called now, Paramount Foods or something. But there were no lines. We just walked. Like, I could see where the designated 6 feet apart spots were. We didn't have to deal with that once. We didn't even have to wait at any point. It was just, we kept going. They'd be like, yep, yep, keep going. Make sure you got your health card, blah, blah, blah. The woman that did mine asked if it was snowing, which it randomly did that day, which is crazy because it was late May. And then, you had to wait 15 minutes and we were out of there. But so that was the smooth part. And then the other part that wasn't smooth was, so Jess and I had to rent a car to go, because it was in Mississauga. We kind of lied about our postal code, I guess, to get it a little bit earlier. Then, of course, after we lied about that, I was getting texts every day. Like, if you show up in the next 6 hours at the Shoppers Drug Mart down the road, you can have the vaccine. They're like, whatever. We rented a car at, I want to say 11:30, and Jess said our appointments were at 1:05 and 1:10. I don't want to throw her under the bus too much, but I'm going to throw her under the bus some here. So anyways, we come home and we end up getting ready, and there's a little bit more traffic than we thought. It was Friday, I guess, and the weather wasn't great, but it's still locked down. So where are these people driving? But we end up getting there at about 1:00. So a little bit later than what they had said. And we show up, and they're at the front. They're like, make sure you have your QR code confirmation to scan. You should have got an email and a text message. So we get put to the side because we can't find it. Jess is like, I know I saw the email. I don't know where it is. Like, check your email. I'm like, I didn't get one. And I checked, I have 2 main email accounts that it possibly could have gone to. I never saw it. And Jess was saying, I know you got it because I got mine. And I'm also like, I didn't get a text either. Like, I'm looking through here, like, when was I supposed to get this? Today? Because I didn't. And so I didn't get anything. And then they're checking. So we're like, we can't find this stuff. So the guy's like, all right, well, what time is your appointment? I'll check you off this way. Jess is like, says her name, says my name, 1:10, 1:05. Guy's like, no, you're not on here. At this point in time, I'm thinking, like, what is going on? I'm like, did we drive all this way? We rented a car for nothing. Like, what's going to happen? And he's like, so anyways, he scrolls, he flips the page and he goes, oh, here you are, 12:05 and 12:10. So we were an hour late to get the vaccine. So I guess in her head, she just thought we had more time because she wouldn't have rented a car and we never would have made it anyways.
Right. Of course.
It's more than a 30-minute drive, no matter what. So then we get into the second guy, and he's like, I guess he just makes sure to set up everything so that you have a record or that you're getting your shot. So he goes through, he asked me what my phone number is. They never took it, so I was never going to get a text message. I don't know how they did. They must have had a number wrong at Jess's phone, so she didn't get her text message. And then the guy says, he's like, what's your email address? So I'm like, it's Jim Harrison. And he goes, yeah, Jim Harrison, that's what I have here. I'm like, yep. JimHarrison. And he goes, oh, the woman on the phone wrote Jim Harrison as in GYM. And I'm like, I mean, I guess she got it right, but I was, I had no shot of making this appointment ever. They had the wrong email, no phone number, and my wife got the time wrong. So, but anyways, the guy was like, doesn't matter. Like, now you're good. So
Harrison.
Yeah, so Gaim for all the Simpsons fans out there. But yeah, like, honestly, great experience. I literally, like, I had worse mosquito bites. I think I said no nothing. Like, sure, my arm was sore. Like, any shot ever that you've had. Like, I remember. Yeah,
my arm was sore like all day, but it was only one day, and that was it. Yeah,
same. Like, so we got it Friday. But I remember sitting here Sunday playing poker and being like, oh, this is already back to normal. Like, I feel great. And I'm happy to say my dad just got his second dose too. So, and he said, not to get everyone's hopes up, because maybe, they won't have the same positive reaction. But he said it was just, he got kind of like aggressively poked. The first one he said he hardly noticed, and the second one, the girl, like, the woman stabbed him, and then just made sure it was in there. The second, like, little bit of secondary stab. But so he said he was fine. My aunt said. She gets same day. She said she was fine as well. So, I mean, it's just it's so awesome to hear this. My grandpa's like, he's so cool to me. We joke that he runs a speakeasy in Aurora because he has his friends over and they're drinking, and now they're gambling and all this stuff since they can't go to his local bar. But right. I guess my aunt took a picture of him after his second shot. She's like, look at him. He's texting his buddies that he's going to be ready to go in 2 weeks. So It's just like, I can picture that being me. Like, I think I probably did the same thing. I texted like, guys, I just got the shot. I'm going to be ready to go. But it's so exciting that, all this is happening. I kind of brushed upon it before, the end of the tunnel and all this.
I can't wait, man. Like, as soon as we're all fully vaxxed up, we're all going to get together. Like, I'm assuming, I'm going to buy a carton of cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
And,
got it.
Smoke them up.
I'm going to have several reward smokes for sure.
There will be a lot of reward smoking
once this is done. Yeah. So, and it's funny. So we just, on Saturday night, like after the day after, we, the Leafs had a heartbreaking overtime loss. And if you're a Leaf fan, and then we got all the boys on a Zoom call, and like that right there was enough for me. Like, it's like, I said it before, but when you see everybody, when you're texting someone, it's like, whatever. But then you're getting back to the same routine of someone speaks that's always, always the butt end of the joke. Like, I'll say things and everyone will make fun of me for something. And then, like, you'll say something and everyone will jump on you for something. Just that routine of, like, just being in that group of friends. I was like, I just, and then we're thinking about, like, okay, when can we book a cottage? When can we buy the reward cigarettes? Like, these are all things everyone's thinking about them. So it was pretty cool to get everybody on that call. Some people I haven't seen in, when I say seen, I mean, I haven't seen even on Zoom. For actually, as I did this, I remembered I wore my ET shirt for you here, Rob.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
still haven't seen it.
I didn't think so, but yeah, it's a spoiler, I guess. But yeah, you should check that one out. I'll check out the Bo Burnham special, and you check out ET. This reminds me, my sister keeps bugging me to watch The Guard. I feel like if I put it on here, public forum, I can't let her down. I got to watch it by next week. So maybe we'll just do 5 minutes segment of the films that I watched in this last week as my homework assignment, and I'll just rhyme them off.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Again, please check us out on YouTube. Search for Crushing Through Life. Subscribe, follow, comment. If you don't like this podcast, if you do like this podcast, whatever, please engage with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.